now we can do all the things that we've been doing essentially all semester long. So pretty much every data set we've used so far, I've already reshaped for you. But this is a really cool command, because now we can do things like, well, we've already done this stuff. And we should get the same numbers. So this was just, I just wanted to compare again overall, promoted and non-promoted. Was it 1443 and 2365? Something like that? I could now do, you know how much I like regressions. Construct a dummy variable for promoted and non-promoted. Label it.
Bless you.
Bless you. And now we can do what we do, which is run a regression. And regressions are always quicker and easier than all that other stuff.
What is does the D stand for anything specific?
Dummy.
Dummy.
But the big D, the big fat D?
Yeah.
I mean the big capital D? Excuse me,
The giant
big fat
one.
D.
Big D.
Yeah. I didn't mean to offend it. I just for dummy. I've offended enough people.
We're used to it.
Yeah, for
I
used
offend a lot.
So yeah, now we ran a regression. It's just a dummy variable regression. Remember that non-promoted was 1,443 cases. Remember the variable difference? That was 921. We see that that difference is statistically significant. It's statistically different from 0. So now we can do the type of analysis that we need to do. And this is, again, the start, but this is, we needed to put the data in this format before we can start running regressions. And again, we only have, in this case, 624 observations because we had 312 observations that were on promotion, 312 observations that were off promotion. Start breaking it up by month. So we should get the same results we had before. You see the non-promoted is a little bit higher than the promoted in that first month, but we know why. I like to make these labels so that instead of getting that table, well, it's not like we don't know what 1 through 12 means, but I still like to. Now the table has nice labels on it. But what we can do now is start graphing stuff. Bar graph. Again, we've got to be able to visualize stuff. So, yeah, we'll not sweat that because we already know it's a data anomaly. It's not a data error, it's a data anomaly. Data gets carried over because it's week-ending data. So sales from December, if Saturday is in January, it's going to be attributed to January instead of December, so no big deal. The rest of the time, we can see the differences are in the direction that we expect them to go. We expect promotion to increase sales. That's exactly what happens. This is one graph. Can we improve on that? Let's see. We can get colors. and put numbers on it. Have we done the numbers thing? We've done the B-label command?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we've done that. I'm always a fan of box plots. I think they provide a little bit more insight into what's going on. Again, you can see that interquartile range, that middle 50% of the data is a little bit higher, or is a lot higher. And we can see where promotion has its biggest effect, which isn't too big of a surprise, which is in November and December, where everybody's buying wine and they're trying to figure out which wine to buy. So what do they buy? The one on promotion. So promotion has a big effect there. Let's have this labeled as better. It's different. The bottom label. I have this one labeled as not better. Apparently I don't like this one. Yeah, I'm just not a big fan of this one. Anybody? No? Yeah, that's why it's not better. All right, we can test. Remember, we really couldn't test for statistical significance, or we had to run that command that ran that test for that ran that t-test for every month. Here we can run a regression. Have we done factor variables? The hashtag things? No? These are awesome. So the hashtags do this. So let's normally, let's put one there. If we wanted to compare sales by month, promoted and non-promoted, we'd have to construct dummies and interactions. So we've done that before. What the hashtags do is do those for you. So if you just put, for example, a single hashtag, it does just the interactions. If you put the double hashtags, it makes this twice as good as Twitter, then Stata automatically constructs the dummy and interaction variables for you. So if we go down here, we're done. And this is cool. And again, it's not like constructing dummies and interactions is that big of a deal, but the less you do, the better. So what do we got here? All of these are the dummies for month, and more specifically, they're the non-promoted dummies. All of these are going to be the promoted dummies by month.
So those are basically the first two regressions we ran just all in one. Because they look like kind of the same results.
The first one we ran, well, this was the first regression we ran. So,
In the very beginning is the 632 and then the -19.
yeah.
Those are all results we got earlier.
Exactly. And if we think about, remember, if we put everything equal to 0, we've got, so if everything's 0, if it's not promoted and it's 0 month. It's going to be January, non-promoted, it was 1786. And we said that for the promoted January, so it would be, promoted January would be here. And remember that sales in January for promoted sales in January were actually less than non-promoted sales in January. And that's what that net 19 is there. So here's the single dummy for promotion. And then the rest of them are the differences by each month. Now this is kind of a mess. Kind of a mess. But we can use margins to clean it up a bit. So margins will sort everything out for us. In other words, instead of taking all these and doing the math, here's non-promoted, this plus that is promoted for January, and then for February it's going to be this plus that non-promoted, and then this plus that plus that. Instead of doing all that by hand, margins will construct all that data for us. Where is my margins? Where'd my margins go? Yeah, here it is. Actually, wait a minute. Margins, comma. Is that right? Let's see if that works. Yeah, that works. Yeah, there it is. So margins command gives us this table here, which, again, we just have to know how to read it. D promo month. So that first top half, this first 12 are going to be non-promoted January, February, March, April, May. The bottom 12 are going to be promoted January, February, March, April, May. And you get the T-statistics for them, as well as the confidence intervals for them. We're going to need this a little bit later. But in essence, what all this should correspond to is that table we started out with. Except now we have T-stats and all that good stuff. Where's your table? Yeah. So with the bar charts, we have the box plots. One of the things that might be nice is to construct kind of a difference and a percentage difference. We can do that pretty easily in Excel if we can just copy and paste, I guess. Let's see, computer. It's So here's what we did in Stata. That was pretty easy. And what I'm doing here is kind of like, well, identical to what we did earlier. Constructing essentially that difference variable. The difference between these two. Here, here, here. So that we can, and the percentage difference. So that we can see essentially where the lift is the greatest. So that's the term they use in, to measure promotional effects is lift. And here's the lift in cases, here's the lift in percentage. Pretty straightforward stuff. Again, you can see, blow this up a little bit. Lift in percentage is probably more important. Here we go. November promotion has its biggest effect. Again, ignoring here. May and August promotion has its smallest effect. But June and July has a much bigger effect. Those promotional effects are pretty big too. 140% lift, 100% lift. That seems pretty impressive. Does it seem kind of high?
No, it's November.
But a promotional effect that gives you even in a down month, 60%, 70%, 80%. That seems pretty good.
You gotta figure Easter's in March or April, so wine's gonna increase around that.
But these are, let's think about the promotional types. A shelf talker, right? Let's think of something simple. You're telling me that a shelf talker is going to increase sales by 60%?
Well, if it's on sale and you're going to a relative's house, probably.
What do you mean by if it's on sale?
Well, just something that indicates it's on promotion, you know what I mean? Anything where the shelf talker says that, you know, buy this, get whatever off on your second one, or,
Exactly. Exactly, that's the problem. This is how promotion is measured by 99% of the firms out there. The problem is, there's no accounting for
type.
price. Every time the firm promotes, or in other words, we don't know if these lifts are caused by the promotion itself, the little shelf talker, or the fact that that shelf talker is also accompanied by a
sale price.
sale price. Exactly. That's the problem with this. There's no accounting for price. They're confounding those two things. So if I'm marketing, I want to look like a genius. I'm going to show you this graph. Look at my little shelf talker I came up with. It was an awesome one too. I was up all night doing it. And it resulted in a 140% increase in sales in November. That's awesome by anyone's standards. The problem is it's wrong. What happened, you know, what if when I put that shelf talker, it was accompanied by a 50% discount? Right? Now we're back to the whole social media problem. Is giving away free wine, is that a social media success or is that a price discount? price discount. So there's no accounting for price here. And you really can't account for price because all we did, remember what we did here. Where did we get this data? We got it from that table. Now we ran that regression, and the regression tells us all about statistical significance and blah, 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 and all that stuff. All good stuff, by the way. All good blah, blah, blah. But in the end, this table is identical to that regression output. And neither one of them accounts for price. And that's the problem. So it's a lot like what's going on with digital analytics. Facebook and a lot of these companies are coming, and Google are coming under pressure because they provide you with metrics that show that their advertisements, that advertising on their platform, on Facebook, on Google, have much bigger effects than they actually do. Is anyone following this? They're actually had to go in and reconfigure how they're measuring all these promotional lifts. And they're still wrong, by the way. But it's one of those things, it's one of those secrets that everyone knows, it's the worst kept secret. Everyone knows all these analytics are wrong, but nobody knows how to fix them. So, yeah. What do? Well, you come up with, you use theory. If all these are accompanied by price, then we should include price in our analysis. So everything we've done is how it's done. The problem is it's wrong. All right, so what do? Let's just throw in price. So we have a process to account for that. Let's look at a table first. All right. So same table, top values are the case volumes. Same exact numbers that we got before. The bottom numbers are the prices that accompanied those promotions in those particular months. And what do you see? You see that promoted price in January was less than promoted price, was less than non-promoted price. You see that in February, the same thing is true. Almost a full buck here. Not quite a buck here. More than $1 here. More? Yes. More than $1 here. More than $1 here. And this is about a $10 bottle of wine, so that's a pretty big sale. Every time they promote, they reduce price. So how do I know what I'm measuring? Am I measuring the effect of the promotion? Am I measuring the effect of the price reduction? Maybe I would have sold more if I just reduced price and saved my money on the promotion. Right? These promotions cost money. Firms have to pay, you got to pay Safeway and all those other retailers to run these promotions. There's no way to tell. At least not the way we're doing it so far. There's no way to tell whether that lift is due to the promotional effect or the price effect. We want to be able to extract that out. Does that make sense? It's a lot like the social media thing. They hired a social media, but at the same time they started cutting price, and he gets all the praise for causing sales to increase, when we saw that it was mostly price. And promotion. So what do? Throw price in our regression. If you notice, the numbers change a bit, and they should. So we've got price. So now we've specifically accounted for the fact that price is going to affect sales. Coefficient of price is negative. Is that supposed to be negative? the price effect? Is that good or bad? What's that? Go ahead.
Oh, well, you're reducing price, so I mean, wouldn't it be negative? I don't know.
Look, we could be, or we're increasing price, but should the coefficient on price be negative or positive? It's
Negative. Law of demand, right?
law of demand. It needs to be negative. It needs to be negative, yeah. So, yeah, it's usually negative. We've seen some wacky situations where we can come up with positive prices, but we'll fix that next semester if you take that class too. That requires a little bit of sophistication. So, negative price means if I raise price, I sell less. If I lower price, I sell more. There's an inverse relationship. It's negative and it's statistically significant. That's always step one. Step one is check out that price coefficient. If the price coefficient is positive, then you're leaving something out of your regression and you need to fix it. After that, we're going to measure the effects of promotion. And again, we got this nice big fat regression. I'm sorry, big boned regression. But it's got a great personality. And got all these coefficients. There's a whole bunch of math involved in trying to figure out what everything means. But again, we can use margins to get us through this. And we'll use that same margins command. So in the regression, so here's the point. In the regression that didn't have price, the table values were the same as the regression values, so we really didn't need to run the regression. But now we're accounting for price specifically by including it in our regression. And now we'd like to be able to clean this up. So margins becomes a lot more important now. Anytime we use regression, margins is going to be more important. And remember, we couldn't do this in the old wide format range of the data. So what I did was I wanted an average price somehow. So we have to evaluate sales at some price, promoted and non-promoted sales. We have to evaluate it at some price. So I just found the average. I looked at the average price, $9.20, and I said, okay, we're going to evaluate at that price in our margins command. And we can change it, by the way. And we're going to get that same big, let's see, this is a nasty command. There it goes. So there it is. Margins, I used at price equals 920, whatever that is. I just copy and pasted from my summary statistics. And notice that it sets price equal to that all the way through. So that now we're comparing everything at the same price. So we're trying to control for price, which we literally were not controlling for in the previous case. So this is a step towards at least doing things a little bit better. All right, it does all the math, and that's a lot of math. And we end up with this same table. And once again, we can copy and paste. Now we're going to need this table because we can't use the table function. We're going to need the margins table. We can copy and paste this into Excel. And is that it there? Yeah. Construct the same table. All right, first thing you notice is what?
It's lower.
It's a little more realistic.
The higher are lower, and the lowers are high. No. And there's negatives. Yeah. So accounting for price made a difference. We're still getting some of the same results. We're still showing that OND is OND and promotion is big during OND. So that's good. But also notice that promotion during the summer is not really working out that well. Again, we know the January thing, we still have that's a data anomaly, so that's an artifact of the data collection process. But these ones shouldn't be, these ones aren't accounting for sales that carried over from some big holiday in April or carried over from some big holiday in, I guess they could have been. What's in April? We just finished April. What is, that's the one with the
Easter.
Yeah, the bunny rabbit thing. And then July, I guess you got 4th of July. Are those?
It's too early in the month to affect August though.
Yeah, 4th is probably too early. And this is weekly data, so yeah. So, but what we can say is that even ignoring the negatives, which we shouldn't, but even ignoring the negatives, clearly promotion during the summer is not nearly as effective as it is during OND. And the numbers are a lot more reasonable. What did we get, 160? Was that the last? The big, wasn't there one at 160? That's insane. We've literally cut this. We've gone from saying promotion more than doubles sales. Almost, 160%. Our promotions can increase sales by 160%. We've gone from that to saying, at best, our promotion increases sales by 60%, which is still pretty good, by the way. Which is still pretty good. But think about it. If you're allocating money, this is your money. This is your winery. This is your toothpaste or whatever it is, and you're making decisions based on the fact that you're expecting 160 or whatever 80% return, whatever that was, and instead you're only getting 50, 60% return, which is still pretty good. That's a different decision making. That's different information set that goes into your decision making process. That's business intelligence, having the right information to make the right decisions. And that's, I think this is a big deal. This is a big step forward from simply doing it the way most firms do it. And again, the reason they don't do this in the first place is, one, the data isn't amenable to it. There's one. And two, God forbid they actually run a regression. They won't, especially in the wine industry. But a lot of industries as well, a lot of other industries as well. This is still not good enough. So there's got to be a better way, and the better way is what we're going to do next week. I tried doing this all in one problem set.